The Case of the Missing Alchemist. Chapter 1. The Detective. The rain fell incessantly, transforming the city into a sea of liquid shadows. The streetlights created diffused halos, illuminating just enough to remind one that darkness prevailed. In the heart of the somber scene, in an office on the third floor of an old building, Private Detective Samuel Lang stared at the street through a window stained by humidity. Lang was a World War II veteran, now turned hunter of urban mysteries. His face was marked by scars, reflections of battles fought both on the field and in the streets. With a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth and a bottle of bourbon on the table, he pondered the harshness of life. As he looked at the rain, a figure wrapped in a long coat and hat entered his field of vision. The office door opened with a creak, and the silhouette of an elegant woman appeared against the dim light of the hallway. "Mr. Lang?" Her voice was soft, but carried a palpable urgency. "Depends on who's asking," Lang replied, not taking his eyes off the window. The woman stepped forward, removing her hat to reveal black hair and eyes as deep as the abyss. "My name is Evelyn March. I need your help. My brother Victor has disappeared." Lang finally turned, assessing her with a keen eye. There was something in her eyes that was not just fear, but also desperation. She placed a strange amulet on the table, along with a substantial sum of money. "He is an alchemist, a brilliant scientist, and he was on the verge of making a discovery that could change everything," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. Lang lit another cigarette, thinking about the last time he had heard someone mention alchemy. But what really caught his attention was the amulet. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, with engraved symbols that seemed to pulse with their own energy. "Where was he last seen?" Lang asked, picking up the amulet and feeling a chill run down his spine. Evelyn handed him a piece of paper with an address and some notes. He took the paper and the amulet, sensing that there was more to this story than she was letting on. "I'll need more information," Lang said, standing up and grabbing his coat. "And I hope you're prepared for what we're going to find." As they left the office, Lang couldn't shake the feeling that he was getting entangled in something much larger and more dangerous than anything he had ever faced. He glanced again at the amulet, the symbols glowing under the dim hallway light. The sensation that he was about to enter an unknown world full of dangers accompanied him as he followed Evelyn to Victor March's mansion. On the way, one question wouldn't leave his mind. What could be so valuable that someone would risk everything, and why did he feel that this answer was closer than he would like? And so, with the rain beating rhythmically against the car windows, the case of the missing alchemist began to unfold, promising more mysteries and dangers at every turn. Chapter 2. The Mysterious Client. The sound of Evelyn's footsteps echoed through the empty hallways of the building as Lang followed her. The detective felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Evelyn March seemed different from his usual clients, not just in her elegance and refined behavior, but also in the aura of mystery that surrounded her. Reaching the lobby, Lang held the door open for Evelyn, who thanked him with a slight nod. The night air was cold, and the rain showed no signs of letting up. They got into Lang's car, a black Buick that had seen better days. "Where are we going?" Lang asked, starting the engine. "To my brother Victor's mansion," Evelyn replied. "He disappeared a week ago, and I'm desperate to find him." Lang nodded, steering the car through the wet streets. The noise of the windshield wipers competed with the sound of the rain, creating the perfect backdrop for a mystery to unfold. "Tell me more about your brother," Lang said, keeping his eyes on the road. "Victor is a genius, a true modern-day alchemist," Evelyn began. "He was working on something revolutionary, a discovery that could change the world, but recently he seemed worried, as if he was being followed." Lang lit a cigarette, listening intently. "And what about the amulet?" he asked, taking a drag. "What does it mean?" Evelyn hesitated for a moment, looking out the window before answering. It's an ancient artifact, a key to Victor's secret laboratory. He believed it had special powers, but he never told me exactly what it did. Upon arriving at the mansion, Lang was immediately struck by the imposing nature of the place. It was a Gothic structure, with towers and architectural details that seemed straight out of a horror novel. The mansion was shrouded in darkness, with only a few lights on inside. "Let's go in," Evelyn said, guiding Lang to the front door. As they entered, they were greeted by an elderly butler, who looked equally concerned. "Miss March, I'm glad you're back," said the butler, bowing his head. "I hope the detective can help us." Evelyn nodded, leading Lang through the vast foyer to Victor's study. The room was filled with ancient books, scientific equipment, and scattered notes. In the center of the room, an oak desk was covered with papers and vials. "This is the last place Victor was seen," Evelyn said, pointing to the disordered desk. "He was working here and then he disappeared." Lang began to meticulously examine the area. He found the crumpled note with alchemical symbols that Evelyn had mentioned earlier. He studied the papers, the vials, and the notes, trying to find any clues. "Something here doesn't add up," Lang murmured, more to himself than to Evelyn. "We need to find out what Victor was really doing and who might be interested in it." Evelyn watched as Lang continued his search. She knew she was placing all her hopes in this detective. And as the night progressed, both felt they were only beginning to unravel a mystery much larger than they had imagined. As Lang read the alchemical symbols on the note, one thought wouldn't leave his mind. Who was following Victor, and what did they want? And above all, where was the missing alchemist? The answers seemed close, but each new discovery raised more questions. Chapter 3. The Scene of the Disappearance. Victor March's mansion exuded an atmosphere of mystery and ancient knowledge. Lang continued his search for clues, while Evelyn watched anxiously. Every corner of the room seemed to hide secrets, and the detective was determined to uncover them. "Tell me more about your brother's research," Lang said, rummaging through the papers on the desk. "Did he mention anything about the Philosopher's Stone?" Evelyn took a deep breath, hesitating before answering. Yes, he believed he was close to recreating the legendary Philosopher's Stone. He thought he could transform metals into gold and achieve immortality, but I never took it seriously until he disappeared. Lang found a worn leather notebook. Opening it, he noticed the pages were filled with complex formulas and alchemical symbols. However, one specific page caught his attention. At the top, there was a handwritten riddle. "The light of gold shines only in the dark, where the sun dares not enter. Seek the answer in the deepest place, where the secrets of the night will reveal." Lang frowned, analyzing the words. "It seems your brother liked riddles. This could be an important clue." Evelyn leaned in to read the riddle, her face pale under the dim room light. "What does it mean?" "Something about gold shining in the dark and secrets of the night." "Perhaps a hidden place in the mansion," Lang speculated, closing the notebook. "We'll need more clues to fully understand this." Lang continued to search the laboratory, examining the broken vials and open books. He noticed Sumtrustafur were Master Sumtrustafur were Sinanasro. Ndasari. But there was a specific area near a bookshelf of old books that seemed recently disturbed. "Here," Lang said, pulling one of the books. An almost inaudible click sounded, and the bookshelf began to move, revealing a hidden passage. Evelyn gasped, surprised. "I didn't know this existed." Lang lit a flashlight, illuminating the narrow, dark corridor ahead. "It looks like we're going down the rabbit hole. Stay close to me." They advanced through the passage, which led them to an underground room. The atmosphere was dense, with the smell of mold and old chemicals. In the center of the room was a pedestal with an open notebook and more alchemical symbols. Lang approached the pedestal, examining the notebook. The notes were in code, But one phrase stood out. The answer lies in the reflection of the soul, where true gold hides. This is the next step in the riddle, Lang said, turning to Evelyn. We need to understand what Victor meant by reflection of the soul. Evelyn looked around, lost in thought. Victor used to talk about ancient mirrors, saying they were portals to inner truth. Maybe there's something here that can help us. Lang and Evelyn began searching for mirrors, or anything that could reflect. The room was full of strange apparatuses and vials filled with glowing liquids. Finally, in a hidden corner, Lang found a mirror framed with alchemical symbols, engraved in gold. Here it is, Lang said, bringing the mirror close to the notebook. The reflection in the mirror revealed hidden words in the notes, visible only under the light of gold. The reflected words formed a new clue. In the heart of darkness, the key lies in the soul of gold. It seems we're getting closer, Lang murmured, analyzing the new information. We need to find out what Victor was hiding down here, and how it connects to his disappearance. Evelyn nodded, determined. We need to find my brother no matter the cost, and if he was truly close to something so powerful, we're not the only ones looking for him. As they ascended back to the laboratory, Lang knew that Victor March's riddle was just the beginning. Each clue seemed to lead to more questions, and he was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing dangers he couldn't yet imagine. Chapter 4. Initial Clues. Back in Victor's laboratory, Lang and Evelyn were more determined than ever to unravel the mystery of the alchemist's disappearance. The riddle and the discovery of the mirror led them to believe that more secrets were hidden within the mansion and, perhaps, even elsewhere in the city. Lang decided to start by questioning those who knew Victor. First, they visited the nearest neighbor, a retired librarian named Harold Finch. Finch's house was a stark contrast to Victor's mansion. Simple, organized, and full of books. Victor was a reserved man, but brilliant, Finch said as he served tea to Lang and Evelyn. He talked about his experiments, but never in detail. He said he was close to a monumental discovery. Did you notice anything strange in the weeks before he disappeared? Lang asked, stirring his tea absently. Finch thought for a moment. Now that you mention it, there was a man who started showing up around here. Always in a long coat and hat, he seemed to be watching Victor's house. Lang and Evelyn exchanged significant looks. Did you get a look at his face? Lang asked. No, he always stayed in the shadows, but I remember something peculiar. He left muddy footprints, as if he came from a place where the soil was wetter than here. After thanking Finch, Lang and Evelyn headed to their next destination, the underground bar called the Alchemist's Den. The place was dark and smoky, frequented by an eclectic mix of scientists, artists, and, of course, those living on the fringes of society. Lang found his usual informant, Tommy the Rat, a small and agile man, always with valuable information. They sat in a secluded corner, away from prying ears. Tommy, I need information about a mysterious man, Lang began. Tall, long coat and hat, seemed to be following Victor March. Tommy smiled, showing his yellow teeth. Ah, that guy. Yeah, I've heard of him. They say he's a mercenary hired by powerful people, but what caught my attention were his meetings with a guy known as the Shadow Alchemist. Who is the Shadow Alchemist? Lang asked, intrigued. No one knows for sure, but they say he knows ancient secrets, things that would drive anyone mad, and it seems he was interested in Victor's research. Lang absorbed the information, feeling the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. He paid Tommy and left the bar with Evelyn. What do we do now? Evelyn asked as they walked down the rainy street. We need to find this Shadow Alchemist, Lang replied. If he was interested in Victor's research, he might know where your brother is. As the night wore on, Lang and Evelyn returned to Victor's mansion to review the notes and try to decipher more riddles. Lang felt they were getting closer to a hidden truth, but he also knew that each step took them deeper into a dangerous and unknown world. While flipping through Victor's notebooks, Lang found a drawing that seemed to match the description of the shadow alchemist. A hooded figure surrounded by mysterious symbols. Next to the drawing was a note in Latin, Ubi lux in tenebris, ibi veritas. Where the light shines in the darkness, there is the truth, Lang translated, looking at Evelyn. I think we have our next step. Evelyn nodded, determination growing in her eyes. We will find him, Mr. Lang. We will bring my brother back. The journey was just beginning, and each clue uncovered brought them closer to the heart of the mystery. Lang knew the path ahead would be fraught with dangers, but also with revelations that could change everything. Chapter 5. The Twist. The night seemed darker and colder as Lang and Evelyn returned to their car after the meeting with Tommy the Rat. The deserted wet streets reflected the streetlight glow, creating a sense of desolation. We need to investigate more about this shadow alchemist, Lang said, lighting a cigarette. He might be the key to finding your brother. Evelyn nodded, but before she could respond, Lang's phone rang. He answered with a sigh. Lang speaking. Detective, you need to come here immediately. We found Tommy the Rat. He's dead. The voice of the officer on the other end was tense. Lang felt a chill down his spine. Where? In the alley behind the bar. Looks like an execution. Hanging up the phone, Lang turned to Evelyn. His face hardened. Tommy's dead. We need to get to the bar. Upon arriving at the alley, the scene was grim. Tommy's body lay on the ground, covered by a thin sheet. Police surrounded the area, keeping onlookers at a distance. Lang crouched beside the body, lifting the sheet just enough to see Tommy's face. He had been shot in the head. A precise, cold execution. Lang clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. He knew too much, Lang murmured. Someone wanted to silence him before he could help us more. Evelyn placed a hand on Lang's shoulder. What do we do now? Lang stood facing the officer who had called him. Any clues about who did this? The officer shook his head. We didn't see anyone, just found the body while patrolling the area. Lang looked around, searching for anything that might have been left behind. His eyes landed on a small crumpled piece of paper near the body. He picked it up and opened it, revealing more alchemical symbols and a short phrase. The gold shines where the shadow hides. Another clue, Lang said, showing the paper to Evelyn. Someone is trying to guide us or mislead us. It could be a trap, Evelyn warned, glancing around nervously. Maybe, but we don't have a choice. We need to follow every lead if we want to find Victor, Lang replied, pocketing the paper. Back in the car, Lang felt the pressure of the case mounting. Tommy's death was not just a personal blow, but also a clear message that they were dealing with dangerous forces. As they drove through the dark streets, Lang reflected on their next move. The Riddle, the shadow alchemist, and now Tommy's execution, all pointed to something much larger than he initially imagined. We're going to need more help, Lang finally said. I have a friend in the police department, someone we can trust. Maybe he can give us more information about these symbols and the shadow alchemist. Evelyn looked at Lang, determination shining in her eyes. I'll do whatever it takes to find my brother, Mr. Lang. We can't give up now. Lang nodded, admiring her courage. Then let's keep going. We'll find Victor and bring justice for Tommy. The journey was becoming more dangerous, but Lang knew they were on the right path. Each new clue, each twist, brought them closer to the truth, and he was determined to uncover what was hidden in the shadows of the city. Chapter 6. The Conspiracy. As the morning dawned, shrouded in heavy mist, Lang and Evelyn drove to the police department. The city seemed like a different place under the diffuse light of dawn, but the sense of danger persisted. Upon entering the station, they were greeted by a middle-aged man with a stern expression, Police Captain Jonathan Blake. Lang had known him since their patrol days. He was a man of principles, but also aware of the city's dark secrets. Lang, good to see you, Blake said, shaking the detective's hand. I heard about Tommy. This is getting worse. We need your help, Jonathan. We're dealing with something big, something involving powerful people, Lang began, getting straight to the point. I need information on a shadow alchemist and these alchemical symbols. Blake took the paper Lang handed him, studying the symbols for a moment before speaking. These symbols are ancient, dating back to the medieval era. And this shadow alchemist, I've heard rumors but never confirmed anything. They say he's a mythical figure, involved in esoteric practices and linked to secret societies. Evelyn leaned forward, anxiety evident on her face. Secret societies. My brother mentioned something about that in his notes, but I thought it was paranoia. Blake shook his head. No, Miss March. There's a lot hidden in the shadows of this city. If your brother was involved with these people, he could be in great danger. We need more clues, Lang said, thinking aloud. And we need protection. These people won't stop at anything. Blake nodded. I'll see what I can find out. But Lang, be careful. They have eyes everywhere. Lang and Evelyn left the station with a growing sense of urgency. They headed back to Victor's mansion to continue examining the notes and look for more clues. Increasingly, the feeling of being watched accompanied them. Back in Victor's laboratory, Lang delved into the notebooks and documents, trying to decipher the codes and symbols. Evelyn scoured the library, searching for anything that might provide more context. Here! Evelyn exclaimed suddenly, holding an old book. I found something about secret societies and alchemy. Maybe this will help us understand what Victor was facing. Lang took the book and began flipping through it. The pages were full of references to mysterious groups seeking power through esoteric knowledge. One name in particular caught his attention: the Order of the Dark Light. This could be what we're looking for, Lang said. It seems this order is linked to the search for the Philosopher's Stone and other ancient secrets. If Victor was involved with them, we might be dealing with a conspiracy of frightening proportions. Evelyn nodded, fear mixed with determination in her eyes. We need to find them, and we need to save Victor. As they continued reading, they discovered that the Order of the Dark Light used secret locations throughout the city to meet and conduct their rituals. One of these locations was an old abandoned chapel on the outskirts of the city. Let's go there, Lang said, closing the book. It could be dangerous, but we have no other choice. With the chapel's location in mind, Lang and Evelyn prepared for the next stage of their investigation. They knew they were getting closer to the truth, but also that each step took them deeper into a world of shadows and dangers. The drive to the chapel was silent, both reflecting on what they might find. When they arrived, the old decaying building seemed to emit an aura of mystery and threat. This is the place, Lang said, stopping the car. Let's go in and see what we find. Evelyn held tightly to Lang's arm as they walked towards the chapel. The door creaked open, revealing a dark and dusty interior. Shadows danced on the walls, and the air was thick with an ancient, musty smell. Lang lit the flashlight and began exploring. They found signs of recent activity: burned candles, symbols drawn on the walls, and finally, an altar with more notes and a map of the city. Here, Lang said, pointing to the map. It looks like they have several meeting places. We need to investigate each one. Evelyn looked around, a mix of fear and determination on her face. We're close. I can feel it. We'll find them and end this. Lang nodded, knowing they were closer than ever to uncovering the conspiracy involving Victor and the Order of the Dark Light. But he also knew that the path ahead would be full of dangers and twists, and he was ready to face them, no matter the cost. Chapter 7. The Perilous Encounter. Lang and Evelyn scoured the old chapel, absorbing every detail that could lead them to Victor and the Order of the Dark Light. While studying the map found on the altar, Lang began to outline a plan of action. "We need to visit each of these locations," Lang said, marking the main points on the map. "I have a feeling one of them will be the key to finding Victor." Evelyn nodded, her eyes fixed on the map. "I agree. We can't waste any time." As they packed up their findings and prepared to leave, a strange sound echoed through the chapel. Lang immediately drew his gun, alerting Evelyn to stay behind him. "Who's there?" Lang called out, his voice firm and controlled. No response, just the sound of heavy breathing from someone hiding in the shadows. As they approached the exit, a hooded figure emerged, advancing with a knife gleaming in the flashlight's beam. Lang reacted quickly, dodging the initial attack and firing a shot that echoed through the chapel. The figure retreated, but not before landing a superficial blow on Lang's arm. "Evelyn, run!" Lang shouted as he braced for another confrontation. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, but obeyed, running towards the exit. The hooded man followed her, but Lang intercepted him, tackling him with force. They fought intensely, the sound of fists and the knife clashing reverberating in the empty space. With a final effort, the attacker managed to break free and flee, disappearing into the night shadows. Lang, panting and bleeding, struggled to his feet, watching the path the man had taken. "Are you okay?" Evelyn asked, running back to help Lang. "I'll be fine. Just a scratch," he replied, examining the cut on his arm. "We need to get out of here before he comes back with reinforcements." Back in the car, Lang and Evelyn sat in silence, both absorbing the tension of the attack. Lang knew they were being followed, and that the danger was closing in. "We need to be more cautious," Lang said, starting the car. "They know we're after them." Evelyn nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "We can't give up now. We're close to finding Victor, and I won't let anything stop us." Lang respected Evelyn's courage and knew they had to keep going. They drove to a discreet hotel where they could rest and plan their next steps more safely. In the hotel room, Lang treated his wound while Evelyn reviewed the notes and the map. Each marked point represented a new possibility, a new danger. "We need to act fast," Evelyn said, looking at Lang. "If they know we're on their trail, they might move Victor to another location." "I agree. Tomorrow morning, we'll start visiting these sites," Lang replied, buttoning his shirt over the makeshift bandage. "But first, we need rest. We need to be at our best for what's coming." As the night advanced, Lang and Evelyn tried to sleep, knowing the next day would bring new challenges. Lang reflected on the attack at the chapel and who the hooded man might be. He was sure that attack was a warning, a clear message that they were meddling with powerful forces. At dawn, they were ready to continue. Lang charted a route to visit the locations marked on the map, starting with the closest ones. He knew each place could be a trap, but also might hold the key to solving the mystery. The first stop was an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The building had been abandoned for years, but according to Victor's notes, it was used by the Order of the Dark Light for clandestine meetings. "Let's go in," Lang said, pulling the rusted door of the warehouse. "Stay behind me, and be prepared for anything." The interior of the warehouse was dark and dusty, but as they turned on their flashlights, they could see signs of recent activity. Tables with documents, melted candles, and symbols painted on the walls indicated the place was still in use. Lang began examining the documents, searching for any clue about Victor's whereabouts. Evelyn found a diary hidden in a drawer, with notes describing the rituals and meetings of the Order. "This could help us," Evelyn said, flipping through the diary. "They mention an important ritual happening soon." Lang studied the notes, realizing the ritual could be the key to finding Victor. If they could intercept the Order during the ritual, they might rescue Victor and put an end to the conspiracy. "Let's keep going," Lang said, storing the documents. "Every step brings us closer to the truth, and we won't stop until we find your brother." As they left the warehouse, Lang and Evelyn knew they were closer than ever to uncovering the mystery. But they also knew the danger was lurking, and every move had to be carefully calculated. The journey was reaching its climax, and Lang was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The search for Victor was far from over, but hope and determination guided them through the shadows. Chapter 8. The Crucial Discovery. Lang and Evelyn proceeded cautiously, aware that each step took them deeper into the heart of the conspiracy. Their next stop led them to an abandoned building in the old industrial district of the city. The information found in the warehouse diary indicated this location was crucial for the Order of the Dark Light. As they approached the building, Lang noticed signs of recent activity: tire tracks in the mud, fresh footprints, and a faint light emanating from one of the windows. They entered silently, with Lang leading, gun drawn, and Evelyn right behind. The interior of the building was as grim as its exterior. They followed the muffled sounds of voices and arrived at a room where several members of the Order were gathered. In the center of the room, an altar was prepared, and on it was a detailed map of the city with various markings. Lang signaled for Evelyn to stay hidden while he stealthily approached the room. He could hear fragments of the conversation. "The ritual is set for tomorrow night. We need to ensure all preparations are complete. Victor March will be our final sacrifice." Lang felt a chill run down his spine. Victor was alive, but time was running out. He retreated to where Evelyn was hiding and whispered the information to her. "We need a plan," Evelyn said, determination gleaming in her eyes. Lang nodded. "We'll wait until they leave. We need that map and any other information we can find here." Hours passed as Lang and Evelyn waited in silence, until finally the Order members began to disperse. When the room was empty, they quickly entered, examining the altar and the map. "Look at this." Evelyn pointed to a specific mark on the map. "This is the ritual location, an old cemetery outside the city." Lang grabbed the map and found more documents confirming the date and time of the ritual. Among the papers, he found a letter detailing the connection between the Order and several powerful figures in the city. "They have support in high places," Lang murmured, pocketing the letter. "That explains a lot, but it also means we're dealing with something much bigger than we imagined." Evelyn found a diary that seemed to belong to Victor. Flipping through the pages quickly, she found desperate notes about his attempts to escape and his concerns about the Order. "He was trying to leave us clues," Evelyn said, clutching the diary. "We need to save him." With the map and information in hand, Lang and Evelyn left the abandoned building, ready to confront the Order the next day. They knew they were venturing into dangerous territory, but had no other choice. At the hotel, Lang and Evelyn reviewed their findings and carefully planned the incursion into the cemetery. They knew the ritual was set for midnight and needed to arrive beforehand to rescue Victor. "We need reinforcements," Lang said, picking up the phone and calling Captain Blake. "Jonathan, we found Victor. We need your help to intercept the Order tomorrow night." Blake agreed readily, promising to send a trusted team to support Lang and Evelyn. With the plan in motion, Lang and Evelyn spent the rest of the night reviewing details and preparing for the final confrontation. As the night wore on, Lang reflected on the journey so far. What started as a simple missing person case had evolved into a battle against an ancient and powerful conspiracy. He knew rescuing Victor would be dangerous, but was determined to bring the Alchemist back, no matter the cost. The next day, Lang and Evelyn met Blake and his team at a discreet location near the cemetery. The captain was prepared, and his men were ready for anything. "Here's the plan," Lang said, spreading the map on the hood of a car. "We'll surround the cemetery and move in stealthily. We need to find Victor before the ritual begins." With everyone aware of their roles, they headed to the cemetery, moving silently among the old tombstones and somber monuments. The full moon cast long, eerie shadows over the scene. Approaching the cemetery's center, they heard the Order's chants and saw torches illuminating the ritual area. Lang signaled for everyone to spread out and prepare for the attack. "There he is," Evelyn whispered, pointing to Victor, bound and surrounded by the Order members. Lang and Blake exchanged determined looks. Let's end this. With a signal, the team advanced, surrounding the Order members. Before they could react, one of Blake's snipers fired, hitting the man holding Victor. The shot was precise, killing the man instantly. But Victor was grazed on the ear, causing him to fall to his knees. Chaos ensued. 2 more ritual members were shot dead by snipers as they tried to react. Lang and Evelyn ran to Victor while Blake and his team confronted the remaining Order members. "Are you okay?" Lang asked, cutting Victor's bonds. "I am now," Victor replied, his voice weak but relieved. The fight was intense, but Blake's team managed to overpower the Order members. In the end, Lang and Evelyn emerged from the cemetery with Victor safe, while Blake detained the conspirators. As they left the cemetery, Lang reflected on the case and the twists they had faced. He knew the battle against corruption and evil never truly ended, but at that moment he felt victorious. Chapter 9. The Final Confrontation. The cold night enveloped the cemetery as Lang, Evelyn, and Victor gathered with Captain Blake's team. The battle against the Order of the Dark Light had been intense, but Victor's sacrifice had been averted, and now they were safe. Victor, still shaken from the graze on his ear, was taken to a secure location where Blake arranged immediate medical care. While Victor was treated, Lang and Evelyn reviewed the documents they had recovered during the operation. "There's something we need to discuss," Victor said, his voice weak but determined. "The truth about the Philosopher's Stone." Lang and Evelyn drew closer, attentive. Victor began to explain. "The Philosopher's Stone is real. It's an ancient artifact, with the power to turn metals into gold and grant immortality. But its power comes at a great cost. Those who seek the stone are consumed by greed and madness. I was close to discovering its complete formula, but I realized its power is far too dangerous." Lang frowned. "Then why continue the research?" "At first, I wanted to help humanity. I thought the stone could end poverty and disease. But over time, I realized those who desire its power are incapable of using it for good. The Order of the Dark Light wanted the stone to dominate and control. I couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands." Evelyn held her brother's hand. "So what do we do now?" Victor looked at her, his eyes shining with fierce determination. "We destroy it. It's the only way to prevent further chaos and greed." Lang nodded. "Where is the stone now?" Victor took a deep breath. "It's hidden in the safest place I know. We need to go there to destroy it." With the decision made, Lang, Evelyn, Victor, and Blake's team set out for Victor's hiding place, an old abandoned mine outside the city. The journey was silent, each reflecting on what lay ahead. Upon arriving at the mine, Victor led the group through dark, narrow tunnels to a hidden chamber. In the center, on a stone pedestal, lay the Philosopher's Stone, glowing with an ethereal, hypnotic light. "This is the stone," Victor said, picking up a hammer and approaching the pedestal. "It's time to end this." As Victor raised the hammer, Lang and Evelyn watched intently. The tension in the air was palpable. Victor took a deep breath and struck the stone with a powerful blow. A deafening sound echoed through the chamber, and the stone shattered into bright fragments that quickly lost their glow and turned to dust. "It's over," Victor said, exhausted but relieved. "The Philosopher's Stone is no more." Lang nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "We did the right thing. Now we need to ensure the Order of the Dark Light doesn't recover from this defeat." As they left the mine, a sense of victory and relief accompanied them. They knew challenges still lay ahead, but they had overcome one of the greatest dangers they had ever faced. Back in the city, Lang reflected on the journey. What began as a simple missing person case had transformed into an epic battle against greed and corruption. He knew a detective's work never ended, but at that moment, he felt victorious. Evelyn and Victor were ready to rebuild their lives, free from fear and persecution. Lang, in turn, was ready for the next case, knowing that while the shadows never completely disappear, the fight for justice must continue. Chapter 10. Resolution and Epilogue. With the destruction of the Philosopher's Stone, Lang, Evelyn, and Victor emerged from the abandoned mine, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. The journey had been long and perilous, but finally, the threat of the Order of the Dark Light had been neutralized. Back in the city, Blake's team ensured that the captured members of the Order were taken into custody and the remaining operations of the group were dismantled. The investigation revealed the extent of the conspiracy, and several powerful figures were implicated and arrested, thanks to the evidence gathered by Lang, Evelyn, and Victor. In Lang's office, the detective sat at his desk, lighting a cigarette as he reflected on recent events. Evelyn and Victor arrived shortly after, both looking lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted from their lives. "Lang, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done," Victor said, his gratitude evident. "You helped me see the truth and make the right decision. The stone could not fall into the wrong hands." Lang took a drag on the cigarette and exhaled slowly. "I did what needed to be done. The truth is, greed and power are difficult enemies to defeat. But today, we managed to strike a significant blow." "Hey," Evelyn smiled, looking at her brother. "We're free now, Victor. We can start anew, away from all this." Victor nodded, hugging his sister. "Yes, we can. And I promise to use my knowledge for good, as it always should have been." As the siblings talked, Lang gazed out the window of his office. The rain had finally stopped, and the first rays of sunlight were beginning to illuminate the city, symbolizing a new beginning. "So, what will you do now, Detective?" Evelyn asked, turning to Lang. Lang smiled, extinguishing the cigarette in the ashtray. "There are always more cases to solve, more mysteries to uncover. A detective's work never ends. But for now, I'll enjoy this moment of peace." Evelyn and Victor bid farewell, promising to stay in touch. Lang watched them leave, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The battle had been hard, but good had triumphed over evil. In the days that followed, the city began to recover. The arrests of the powerful figures of the Order of the Dark Light brought a renewed sense of justice and hope to the citizens. Lang continued to work in his office, taking on new cases and helping those in need. One afternoon, while reviewing some old files, Lang found the amulet that Evelyn had given him at the start of the case. He held it, reflecting on how a simple object had triggered such significant events. "Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference," he murmured to himself, placing the amulet back in the drawer. Life went on, and Lang remained vigilant, always ready to confront the shadows that tried to envelop the city. He knew that evil would never completely disappear, but he also knew that as long as there were people willing to fight for justice, hope would never die. With one last look out the window, Lang grabbed his hat and coat, preparing to face the next mystery. The city still had many secrets, and he was determined to uncover them, one case at a time. As he left his office, the rain began to fall again, but this time Lang welcomed it like an old friend, ready for the next adventure. And so, the detective went on his way, knowing that no matter how dark the night, the light of truth would always prevail.